Hello, welcome to chapter 11. We're talking about understanding individual behavior. And in this graphic on this slide, you're going to see a couple different aspects, both the visible and the hidden. I'm going to touch on a couple of each, and then we'll go to the next slide. So the first one is the policies, procedures. That's how we do things. Maybe we have a certain amount of training before we do process X, or maybe there's certain types of meetings that we have to go to. That's the policies, procedures. And then you take a look down at the bottom of the visible aspects and that chain of command. Now remember, in a mechanistic organization, there's going to be many layers. So there could many layers of management in an organization, whereas in an organic, you may have three, maybe four at the most. And so those different layers of management that make up the chain of command would be a visible aspect. Now, our first keyword of this chapter is going to be perceptions, and that is going to be the first hidden aspect we're going to talk about. Now, perceptions are simply what we think of something, our opinion of something, our how we perceive what's going on in the organization. So I think everyone has perceptions. I'm hoping you have a positive perception of these lectures as I'm talking to you. Um, so then, as we get a little bit further down here, the interpersonal and intergroup conflicts. As I mentioned before, conflicts are okay if done properly, and it's a good way to get information out. It's a good way to learn from each other. But are the conflicts where one department head and the other department head just butt heads? Or is it something where people within departments sit together at a table and just try to figure out what's the next step forward? What can we do that suits both departments and ultimately the best for the organization? Now, there are several goals for organizational behavior. And you can see here, of course, employee productivity. Yes, we want to get the most out of our employees. Not only do we want to be happy, we want them to be productive. We want limited absenteeism. We want limited turnover. Of course, turnover costs a lot of money. Now, keyword number 2 is going to be job satisfaction. How happy are we at our jobs? Hopefully that you are. One of the stats I've always hear is that 70% of the people do not like their jobs. It's like, oh my gosh. I happen to be one of the 30%. I love what I do. And I hope each one of you who are watching this, I hope you love your jobs too, because um, at least at the very most like your jobs, because we identify who we are for jobs, and if we like what we do, we're going to be more productive, and it's going to be less stress. We saw in few chapters ago about stress and how it can really tear into a person. So that job satisfaction is huge. Workplace misbehavior, I think you get an idea about that. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't fight. um, those are pretty simple things. All right, now we got some different attitudes here. So in regards to the cognitive, it's how you think about a situation. It's how you think or feel something should be. The effective is how you feel about it. So it's about these person, belief, and in behavior, of course, is where we act or how we think we're going to act toward a certain person or toward a situation. And so these three areas will have a huge impact upon how you are perceived both as a leader, but also your perception of the work that you do. Now, there's the organizational commitment. Now, you may say to yourself, well, I see employee engagement there too. Is employee engagement, organizational commitments the same thing? No, it's not. So let me explain something to you. So organizational commitment is you perhaps represent the company elsewhere. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. You represent the company at a function, and maybe that function's at night, and you volunteered for it. Or maybe that there's a company picnic and you volunteered for that. So you're trying to help grow the organization. You feel attachment to this organization. It's a commitment. Now, employee engagement. Employee engagement is your work level, meaning that how much effort and time you're going to put into something. If you're going to put something, if you're going to do just the bare minimum for your check, fine. If you're going to go and try to learn something new and try to advance yourself, great. So the levels of commitment are going to be different among individuals. And one thing that you as a leader have to understand, and a manager as well, is that not every person is going to perceive the job like you do or perceive the organization like you do. And so, you get to know your individuals and see what it is that they want. And that's what I'm saying. I said throughout this whole course is that management is not a cookie cutter approach. You have to get to know your people and meet them where they're at. All right. So understanding attitudes and, obviously satisfied employees perform better on the job. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you may have a job or you've had a job where you're like, oh, I can't stand this. And you probably can look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, did I really do the best I could at that job? And the answer is probably will be no, because you didn't like the job. So if you're happy with it, you're going to perform better. Um, Talk to people, survey individuals, see what they're thinking. Talk to them about what they're thinking. What do they want? What do they see that can be improved? And remember, where you're the manager and you're seeing things this way, the employees might see something differently that you're not. And so talk to them, see what happens. You might be surprised. Now, our third key word is going to be emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is one of the most critical aspects of management and leadership. The reason being is that you have to understand who you are, but you also have to kind of put yourself in shoes of others as well. All right, so let me explain that a little bit. So in regards to the self-awareness, who are you? What's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? You have to do an evaluation, and this should be done regularly. The self-management aspect, getting your work done on time, showing up. That's the self-management, taking care of yourself. We got a chapter coming up on motivation. What motivates you? Is it intrinsic, where you get the compliments that make you feel good about yourself? Or extrinsic? Is it about money? Is it about position? Everyone's different, okay? But you have to understand what motivates you. Empathy, biggest one of the lot right here. Putting yourself in shoes of others, understanding who they are, what's their issues. Everyone has a story, and that story should be told. If if you notice that a person is maybe down or maybe their work has slipped a little bit and you talk to them, make yourself available to them. Share a story that maybe if it fits, share a story about what similar situation you've had. But you want to be able to show, yes, I understand. Be compassionate. And then the social skills, being able to listen, being able to step in when you need to, being able to say the right things. It takes time and practice. But if you want to practice anything first, it's the listening skills. Listen to what the person has to say, wait about 3 seconds, and then you make your statement. Because what you want to do, you want to show that person that they have been heard and you understand what they say, and now you can come back and talk to them. Like wait that 3 seconds. Now, understanding personalities. Everyone has a different personality. That's what's the unique aspect about people, is that everyone's pretty much different. And so, understanding different approaches to work, that's what I'm saying to you earlier. Meet people where they're at. And with that, keep working on being a better manager by understanding personalities, meeting people where they're at, listening, communicating, going back to that last slide. Having that self-awareness and emotional intelligence will make you a better manager. Now, on the screen, you see a couple things here about perceptions. And the one thing about perceptions is that part of it is what the person's been told, and the other bit's been what their observations are. So we have to have to be careful with this. So, for example, stereotyping. Um, Stereotyping is going to be what a person has been told about a certain group of individuals, and then they're going to have that belief about that. Okay, so that's where something's been told. Now, An observation, and I like this. I like this first one that they use, is speed reading. There could be an inaccurate perception, because they just read certain bits, and I like that. And I can really relate to that first one because I took a speed reading course many, many years ago. It was the biggest waste of money ever. It was just awful. And we complained to the company, and the company was like, "Well, you took the course, you didn't say anything then." Of course, we didn't say anything. We were trying to learn it. So I can totally understand about the speed reading. All right. So, in terms of understanding perceptions, yeah, employees will react to their perceptions. This is how they feel. This is what they're seeing. All right. So this goes back to that effective that we talked about earlier. They see how their emotions are and their feelings about something, and there will be distortions. I'll tell you a quick story about perceptions here. And what happens is that these perceptions, remember I told you in that last slide, where sometimes perceptions are what the person's been told and also their observations. Now, when I was working this place in Illinois, I was a new person, and the person who was training me was a person who was leaving. And she was nice, but she also would go out for lunch and not come back and not say anything, which is probably one of the reasons why she was being asked to leave. Well, she left on her own, but I think she's gonna be asked to leave. But anyway, so when she was training me, she's like, "This group of people on the other side, don't talk to them," because our customer service project management area was divided in two. One of which was for education, one of which was for education, one of which was for commercial. And I was more on the education side. And she's like, "Don't talk to those other people." And I think we've talked about them before, talked about their system before. But anyway, one day, Sharon was named the person. She wasn't there. I needed help. It was late in the day. The three ladies that she told me to avoid were there. So I went over, talked to them. "Can you please help me out? I'm stuck." They were the nicest people in the world. They bent over backwards. They kept coming over. "Do you need help? Do you have any questions? Anything we can do for you?" It was fantastic. And what happened was that, and I got to learn about this, the person who trained me, Sharon, she would go out for liquid lunches and not come back. And so the ladies on the other side had a stronger work ethic, and they looked down on Sharon because of what she would or wouldn't do. She would come back to work. And so that was the perception. But I was given a perception of those individuals that they were mean when actually they were wonderful. So that's just one of the things about how perception can be distorted. Okay. I know I'm getting long with this. I'll wrap this up soon. So we talked about observations, direct experience in terms of perceptions, or observations and talking to people. I use that for direct experience. Now, social learning theory, I subscribe to this. I learn by watching. I learn by doing. I can't read a book and pick it up and figure out how to do it. I need to see something. Thank God for YouTube, so I can watch people do it. But anyway, yes, you learn from direct experiences. Remember, I've told you guys throughout this whole course, you learn more from your mistakes than you do your successes. Now, you may think to yourself, "Well, Rich, why do you always repeat yourself?" The reason being is that at times I say something, you may be somewhere else. Your mind might be somewhere else, or you may be listening to something on the radio in the background, whatever the case may be. And so the more I say something, the more chance that you're going to hear it. And if you hear it over and over, you're going to remember it. So there is a little bit of a method to the madness. In regards to shaping behavior, real quickly, I think you have to read about positive reinforcement. That could be anywhere from monetary to position to praise. And we'll talk about that, and we talk about motivation. I think you have to read what punishment is. It could be, day off, and as the extension, of course, is termination of an individual. Um, So do different generations affect the workplace? Absolutely. Absolutely they do. Because each one of these have different needs. And as we look at this last slide, we see the four generations in the workplace right now. And we've talked about this in earlier chapters, so I won't go much depth in this. But just again, as a reminder, baby boomer are loyalist, but as you know, they're older now. And so they want to do a good job and they want to do the best they can. They've always done that. They're going to be slower. Their bodies aren't functioning the same as it used to be. So they may need to sit where others stand. They may need more time to do something. So that's those considerations. Gen Xers, I've told you before, we wanted to rule the world, and we've made a lot of mistakes in our generation. But you're still seeing a lot of Generation Xers in the workplace, and these individuals, they will try hard. They're still going to be productive. I think you're going to see Gen Xers going to be around for quite some time in the workplace because the boomers, the reason why they're back to work, and the Gen Xers, they are not going to be able to retire, and so they're going to stay in the workforce much longer than what their parents did. The Ys and the Zs, again, we talked about this a few chapters ago. Family is more important to them. Their time is more important to them. Work is important, and they will commit to work, but it's not their number one thing. Where with the boomers and with the Gen Xers, work was number one. Ys and Zs have changed that. And that's something that as a manager and leader are in the field, and you got these four different generations in the field at the same facility, you have to take into consideration each one of these groups and what they're trying to look for and why they're working. Okay, so this got a little long. I apologize. I hope that you enjoyed this discussion. Again, as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. Take care of yourselves. Have an amazing day, and I will see you later. Bye.